Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for having me today, discussing the importance of decarbonizing data centers and how to focus on water usage could not have come at a more relevant time. Recently, I saw someone repost a video of flooding in France. Cars were caught up in 600 liters of rain falling per square mile, and they wrote, "The climate collapse will consist of something, will consist of watching films of disasters on your mobile phone that gradually get closer to where you live until one day you are the one doing the filming." Just last month, Hurricane Helene turned Asheville, North Carolina, in the United States into ground zero of one of the worst disasters in the United States history. This is relevant to today's conversation because Asheville is home to NOAA, or the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's primary data center, which maintains one of the most significant archives on Earth with comprehensive oceanic, atmospheric, and geophysical data dating back to the 1700s. And as of October 4th, all archive data was no longer accessible and limited new data was able to be ingested, which has had implications for both private and public sectors, including agriculture, energy, retail, reinsurance, transportation, and media. NOAA's most consequential data center, the technological hub for tracking climate change and for preparing the necessary guidance and survival measures, stood as a beacon of safeguarding information, personnel, and the future of how to best navigate our changing environment and resources. And now it's wiped out of commission, and a crisis-driven cautionary tale. I wanted to tell the story to set the context of why decarbonizing data centers is so important. It's not a stretch to say that emissions are one of the biggest threats to maintaining a connected world. So of course, it's critical that we acknowledge and explore the challenges we are facing when it comes to decarbonization. Simply put, we must decarbonize the building sector at scale. And a great place for us to be doing that right here and right now is with a focus on water usage effectiveness, also known as WU, in data centers. First, let's talk about the growing global data center footprint around water usage. Bank of America recently estimated that in the US, data centers are the 10th largest water consumer, and that big individual facilities can consume millions of gallons per month. In 2023, US data centers consumed more than 75 billion gallons of water, equivalent to the amount London consumes in 4 months. Tech companies are at the heart of this trend, and at the issue environmental groups have pointed to, that data centers are often in water-stressed areas. Google reported its water consumption rose 14% in 2023, primarily due to water cooling needs as its data centers, of course, at its data centers. And Microsoft has admitted that 42% of the water it consumed globally in 2023 came from areas with water stress. The growth of the global data center footprint, combined with the challenges of the global water crisis, demands that we dig deeper. Look at the US state of Virginia, which experienced a high-impact drought in 2023. Much of the state is presently in a drought or suffering from abnormally dry conditions. Yet, it's also home to the world's largest concentration of data centers. Water consumption by facilities in Virginia's data center alley has jumped almost 2/3 in the last 5 years. Droughts, of course, are not unique to America. Last year's European drought was the worst in 500 years, according to European Commission scientists. The European Drought Observatory reported that 63% of land in the European Union and the UK was severely affected. A recent satellite analysis reveals an even more concerning issue: the steady depletion of groundwater stored in aquifers across Europe between 2002 and 2022. This loss, believed to be primarily due to climate change, is estimated to average 84 gigatons per year since the start of the 21st century. Considering its current advantages over air-cooled systems, the market revenue from liquid cooling systems is likely to have strong growth until 2027. And although liquid cooling systems provide more efficient cooling than air cooling and support the lifespan and performance of computer components, they are more complex and expensive to install and maintain, and they can result in significant amounts of water consumption. Here is the context. In 2021, the average Google data center consumed 1.7 million liters of water per day, equivalent to 622 million liters annually. More generally, it is considered that a data center uses 26 million liters of water each year on average per megawatt of data center power. Based on this figure, and assuming that 20% of all the existing European data centers are using liquid cooling systems, the amount of water usage by data centers would reach 43.2 billion liters annually. That's a big number. This means that as a decreasing supply could impact data across continuity, Water is not just increasingly being recognized as a potential risk for data center operators, it's a core factor in the perpetuation of water crisis together. So what are we going to do to turn this liability into an asset? How can we improve who at data centers and make sure that who ensures we can maintain that continuity and connectivity in over the years, and most importantly, in this ever-changing world? First, it's important to note that there is some progress and guardrails developing on this front. In Virginia, that's my home state, the state's Department of Environmental Quality approved the transfer of a permit from an old power station to Amazon that will allow the tech company to withdraw up to 1.4 billion gallons per year from the Raffensnock River to cool a new data center campus on the old industrial site. That's exciting. However, authorities are also setting daily, monthly, and annual limits that permit holders can use without harming the water body from which the water is drawn. Additionally, Amazon has said that it is committed to being a good water steward and that its data center business will be water positive by 2030, meaning the company will return more water to communities than it uses in direct operations. Then there is the Climate Neutral Data Center Pact, CNDCP, a self-regulatory initiative signed by 74 data center operators and 23 associations, which has presented its proposed metrics for water conservation to the European Commission. The CNDCP has proposed a goal to the European Commission to cut water usage to a maximum of 400 ml per kilowatt hour of computer power by 2040. This voluntary target is highly ambitious and demonstrates the commitment of the European data center industry to reducing its impact on the environment. So obviously, decisive government intervention in water usage is expected to gain momentum, and an aggressive push for risk transparency from the investment community is also driving the increase in ESG commitments. And if you've been tracking the news, just a few weeks ago, in October, the United Nations announced its next UN Water Conference to be held in 2026, and to accelerate the implementation of UN Sustainable Development Goal 6, ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. And yet, a survey by NTT Corporation reveals that 95% of enterprises are falling short of their net zero carbon goals. The research highlights that 68% of global enterprises admit they are not on track to meet those goals, and further analysis suggests up to 95% might lag behind. That's a significant lag. The survey also points out that companies are struggling with inadequate access to emissions data and lack actionable roadmaps. So we are long overdue for a comprehensive solution that goes much further, that accounts for the complex water usage challenges currently stifling net zero progress. Put simply, tackling a footprint expanding in seemingly every corner of the world will require a greater holistic and cost-effective WU-focused approach that will drive the decarbonization of data centers at scale and ensure we use this precious resource to retain the connectivity that humanity will require for a sustainable future. Organizations who embrace a comprehensive approach to water usage will ensure we reach accelerated decarbonization of this sector as effectively and efficiently as possible. For a data center specific decarbonization strategy, there are 5 top WU practices I recommend for implementation and accelerating to zero. First up, optimize your cooling systems. Implementing efficient cooling technologies like liquid cooling, free cooling, and evaporative cooling to reduce water usage would be a great start. As you know, air-cooled chillers are generally less energy efficient, especially at higher capacities, requiring more physical space for installation, and relying on ambient temperature to reject heat and/or just noisy. Water-cooled chillers circulate chilled water through CEDA units or other cooling devices. These are particularly suitable for large data centers due to their high efficiency and capacity. Then we have free cooling, which uses outside air to cool the data center and reduces the need for mechanical cooling. In predominantly cooler climates, this solution can last a significant portion of the year. Of course, evaporative cooling, the use of evaporation water to cool the air, which is then used to cool the data center, is a great technique for dry climates where water can evaporate efficiently. And of course, heat exchangers are game changers. Transferring heat from the data center to an external cooling source, such as a cooling tower or a geothermal system, is incredibly effective and can be integrated into the various cooling systems to enhance efficiency. Second, use recycled water. Utilize gray water and rainwater for cooling purposes instead of potable water. Rainwater harvesting, for example, helps in reducing reliance on municipal water supplies. Third, improve airflow management. Enhancing airflow management reduces the cooling load and consequently water usage. For example, computer room air conditioning units use refrigerants to cool the air and distribute it through the data center. And computer air handler units use chilled water to cool the air, which is then circulated by fans. Fourth, regular maintenance. You must ensure regular maintenance of cooling systems to prevent leaks and inefficiencies. Fifth, monitoring and metering water usage. Implement advanced metering and monitoring systems to track water usage accurately and identify areas for improvement. Implementation of this is something that I will get into a little bit later. This is a very important topic that we all must focus on, and we all like to measure things. But speaking of implementation, implementing water usage effectiveness practices comes with a number of challenges that must be considered. On the internal operations front, we have a number of issues, such as heat dissipation. Water is an effective medium for absorbing and transferring heat, which you know very well. Servers and other data center equipment generate a significant amount of heat. So to both prevent overheating, and ensure optimal performance, this heat needs to be dissipated efficiently. Cooling towers are next. Many data centers use cooling towers, which rely on water to remove heat from the system. Water circulates through the cooling towers, where it absorbs heat from the data center and then evaporates, releasing the heat into the atmosphere. Chilled water systems present a unique obstacle as well. In chilled water systems, water is cooled in a central chiller and then circulated through cooling coils to absorb heat from the servers. This method is highly effective, but requires a continuous supply of water. Then let's go to humidity control. Maintaining the right humidity levels is crucial to prevent static electricity, which can damage sensitive electronic components. Water is used in humidification systems to deploy this protection and maintain optimal humidity levels within the data center. Facility maintenance is another hurdle. Water is used for general maintenance tasks, such as cleaning and fire suppression. So obviously, it all adds up. Last but not the least, we have to address indirect water usage and energy consumption. Data centers consume large amounts of electricity, and the power generation process itself often requires significant water usage. This indirect water consumption also adds to the overall water footprint of data centers. And then externally, the factors that affect successful water management and the implementation of water usage effectiveness strategies go well beyond the interior of the facilities. We know that variability in weather patterns are of utmost concern. They can lead to water scarcity, or in the case of Asheville and beyond, excess in acute periods that can complicate efforts. So we are dealing with both sides of the spectrum. Aging infrastructure with outdated water system continues to be a thorn on our side. They are prone to inefficiency and leaks and stable innovations. And population growth is another growing challenge. This involves an increasing demand for water for the community and puts further stress on already compromised infrastructure. And then regulatory compliance, which is exceptionally consequential. Navigating complex regulations and ensuring compliance can be very challenging, especially with fragmented and varying benchmarks across jurisdictions. And water quality must be ensured. This requires robust treatment and monitoring. And unfortunately, we are in the age where we have to deal with cyber physical attacks. Water is at the heart of the geopolitical conversation at all times. Once I met with the Chinese minister and I talked to him about what is the biggest risk that you think about. He said, water. I asked him why, because he told me it's a national security issue for me because I cannot import water. So obviously, modern water management systems are increasingly reliant on digital technologies, making them vulnerable to attack. So to tackle these challenges, facilities can take a five-pronged approach, which must be underscored by a new commitment to the technical advances driving WOO and management priorities. First things first, we must engage in more sustainable practices across the board. This includes utilizing sustainable water sources and conservation techniques. Next, we must invest in modern infrastructure. It's important to continue to upgrade to more efficient and resilient water systems like smart irrigation systems, which use sensors and weather data to optimize irrigation schedules. This could be a big improvement. We have to enhance maintenance protocols. Regular inspections and maintenance prevent leaks and inefficiencies so that going forward, they'll be of utmost importance. They will give you the payback. We must promote water recycling and treatment. Reusing water within the facility reduces overall consumption. And innovations in water treatment technologies such as membrane filtration and UV disinfection improve the quality of water and make it safe for reuse. And critically, we must implement advanced monitoring. IoT devices can monitor water usage in real time, detect leaks, and optimize water distribution systems. This helps in reducing wastage and ensuring efficient water management. Using this real-time data analytics, we can detect and address issues promptly, and which will make a big difference. And of course, technologies like satellite imagery and drones can also monitor water bodies, track changes in water levels, and detect pollution sources. So obviously, when it comes to effective WOO strategy, AI will be crucial across the board. I mentioned leaks. Well, smart sensors combined with AI are what detect leaks in water infrastructure early. By identifying and addressing leaks promptly, significant water loss can be prevented. AI can also be integrated with smart water grids to manage water distribution networks more efficiently. It can balance supply and demand, detect anomalies, and optimize the overall operation of the water grid. When it comes to safer water, AI can analyze data from various sensors to monitor water quality in real time. And perhaps most relevant to the cautionary tales I presented at the beginning of this session is the importance of AI predictive analytics, particularly to predict and manage floods. AI algorithms analyze historical data, weather patterns, and usage trends to predict future water demand. AI modules can also predict flood events by analyzing weather data, river levels, and other relevant factors. This enables timely warnings and better management of flood risks. There is no disputing the water usage controversy around AI and innovative advancements that require more resources for implementation. But there is also no disputing the benefits of technical integration. Automated systems and real-time monitoring reduce manual intervention and improve the efficiency of water management processes. Reading water waste and optimizing operations cuts cost. Water recycling and reuse contribute to sustainable water management practices. And predictive analytics help in building resilient water management systems that can adapt to changing conditions and demands. We cannot underestimate the value in all of this. Of course, this can all feel incredibly overwhelming. But the reality is that many data centers are making significant strides in focusing on net zero and overcoming these decarbonization obstacles through innovation, collaboration, and investment. And because these companies are starting to provide more transparency in their data center best practices, the industry will be able to more easily access and implement strategies that can work for others and at scale. Now, you will recall that I mentioned cooling based on evaporation measures. Indirect evaporation cooling, also known as IDEC, is an efficient and sustainable cooling method used in data centers to leverage the natural process of water evaporation to cool air. Additionally, IDEC systems are typically closed, which essentially means they do not require a continuous supply of fresh water and are therefore more efficient. The reason it is also consequential is because the process does not include introducing additional humidity into the data center environment. This is classic. So Microsoft has successfully implemented IDEC in several of its data centers to enhance cooling efficiency, reduce water usage, reduce energy costs, and improve sustainability. Google's data center in Belgium employs IDEC to optimize cooling efficiency. This setup has allowed Google to significantly reduce its energy consumption and operational costs, contributing to its goal of operating carbon-free by 2030. And leading data center provider Switch has implemented IDEC in its SuperNAP data centers. These facilities use a patented cooling system that combines indirect evaporative cooling with other advanced cooling technologies. And this approach has resulted in substantial energy savings and has helped Switch achieve some of the lowest Q ratings in the industry. When it comes to liquid cooling systems, which are becoming increasingly popular in data centers due to their efficiency and ability to support high-density computing environments, we are seeing more and more strides in the right direction. The NRL in Golden, Colorado, the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, is a great example of success. The challenge for NRL has been to reduce water and energy consumption. NRL implemented a thermosiphon hybrid cooling system that combines liquid cooling with renewable energy sources. It uses a thermosiphon cooler in conjunction with existing evaporating towers to optimize efficiency. And so far, they've seen significantly reduced water usage and operational costs, and the heat from the liquid-cooled supercomputer was reused as a primary heat source for offices and laboratory space, obviously in such a cool climate. It's also worth mentioning how impressive Hewlett-Packard's enterprise efforts are here. HP wanted to tackle head-on the double-sided coin of AI. They were intent on enhancing cooling efficiency for AI and high-performance computing applications. So far, HP's liquid-cooled supercomputers, such as the Cray system, use renewable energy sources to power the cooling systems. The heated water from the liquid cooling process is reused for heating, again, office spaces and laboratories. This approach has led to significant energy savings and improved sustainability, demonstrating the effectiveness of combining liquid cooling with renewable energy sources. It gets as simple as that. So, of course, as you can see from the endless examples of success via a new focused approach to decarbonizing our data centers, the capacity is there, the resources are there, the opportunities are there, the affordable entry points to starting the process are there. That's exciting. With a focus on the world's most precious resource, with a reimagination of its indispensable role in keeping humanity connected in perpetuity, our decarbonization efforts can be innovated, overhauled, transformed, and accelerated in ways we never thought possible. But to safeguard that progress, to avoid the loss of data we have seen in Asheville and will see in centers facing the threat of climate change, a renewed commitment to protecting these centers will need to be done en masse. I hope this is the future we can all work together today, starting today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that, Mahesh. Really appreciate it. I do like that you gave us some stark examples, because I think it's easy to forget the real world impact on the environment. You know, we're all talking about sustainability and AI, so thank you for that. I've just got a couple of questions, if I may, before I let you off today. So just typically, obviously, PUE has been a really traditional metric when measuring data center sustainability and things like that. Do you think water usage effectiveness is going to be sort of the new metric we look to, and will it overtake that? How's that going to play out?
I think that's an interesting question. I wish the WU takes over, because it's much more meaningful to the work that I'm doing and the mission that I have. So I would always advocate for WU to take over. But I do believe that both metrics present very multiple dimensions. One of the challenges with the sustainability that I've seen in my personal experiences, we seem to single thread it. I think a dual metric is not bad, but who is directly addressing the challenges that I talked about today, which is that water is the single largest resource that we cannot regenerate easily. Yeah. There are, I can generate energy, but I cannot generate water.
Yes.
So from that perspective, I think we will become a lot more relevant. Whether it will take over few, I don't know. But if it does, I'm happy.
Thank you. Okay, this was quite long, so I will try to read it slowly. Thames Water has previously proposed measures to restrict water usage for data centres in its area. One of the key reasons it didn't go through with it was we ended up with one of the wettest periods since 1836. That seems like a lucky break for the data centre industry, although I know some have taken this effort seriously, others have not. Given the UK hasn't exactly built more water storage capacity, what is your outlook for the industry if some of these players continue to ignore warnings and we end up in a serious drought? That's a good question.
I think the outlook for the industry is that I'm an optimist, so I will always try to speak from the sense of the sense will prevail. You know, I will always quote the bad example we have before us, the COVID, right? We have seen what happened during COVID. The disruption during COVID was unacceptable, is something that is unforgivable in the generations, at least in all of our generations. You know, we have experienced it. So we don't want another catastrophe like that. And during COVID, one thing that was working was the data centers. And we were all connected. So you don't want to see and imagine a world that is not. So I do believe course corrections will happen. I hope it doesn't happen in a similar way that we had to do with COVID, right? Our living conditions improved, our responsiveness improved. So I hope we don't wait until that crisis happens. I hope that we take the UN Goal 6 seriously and start addressing it, and really take these local regulations, not from a compliance point of view, but from a leadership point of view, that we emulate and we actually lead on that front. So my outlook for the industry is we're going to get it done right, because we all love our mobile phones and the access that we get to it. So I would say that the future is bright, but more hard work is needed, and I think I see enough evidence around the world for that to happen.
Yeah, we have more control if we take it on proactively rather reactively, as you said, as with COVID. And then just one last question, if I can. What's the best practice for effectively measuring water usage and finding areas for improvement?
Let me look at the question one more time, just to make sure.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, can you repeat that for me one more time? Don't mind.
Yeah, I'll read the question, sorry. Sorry, I'll just get the question. What's the best practice for effectively measuring water usage and finding areas for improvement?
I think the best place always, I believe, is that to start with metering, getting specifics on meter. That's always a foolproof method. Because I'll give an example, right? While I was at US Green Building Council, we had an automated system of certification and verification for a building And this gentleman was very upset one day, and he called me and said, "How dare you tell me that my scoring on water is very bad?" And because I am considered to be the best water conserving building in the world, and I've demonstrated documentation to prove it. But we had to keep telling him that no, you have a water problem. And we went back and forth for a month. And then finally he realized at 3 o'clock in the night, his irrigation systems were going up. And it was basically blowing all the water out, which he didn't track, which he didn't measure, and in a very bizarre way. So I will always start with the basics of putting the metering. But however, as I talked during this conversation, there are enough tools that are out there, which are AI coupled tools that have a lot more intelligence, lot more ability to actually look at your usage patterns and be able to predict and give insights into where these types of potential leakages or ineffectiveness is happening. And most importantly, I will also give you a good way to develop a maintenance protocol that is customized to your specific needs or your specific usages. So I will always start with metering. And I am a firm believer in this process. What gets measured gets done. What gets done gets replicated. And what gets replicated gets transformed. So we have to make sure that that is where we start. And I would say that is the easiest old technique that we can use.
Brilliant. And that perfectly brings us to the end of today. So thank you so much for sharing your insight and joining us today, Mahesh.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you. Bye-bye.